Alright, so right into that cadmium yellow light, and just loading the brush fully on both sides, both corners, and start putting in a hill here. See me using different angles of the brush. So this is a great idea to kind of explore the fan brush and what it can do for you, creating a little bit more of a grassy, meadowy effect. But I kind of ended up with more of a hill than a meadow. I'm just kind of trying to focus on which end of the brush I'm using. You don't want to have to use the whole brush, the whole length of the brush. As I'm adding this new color on top of the darks, I'm just kind of going back and softening everything. Making sure to soften everything. I think it's important. Alright, reloading again into that yellow. Notice the yellow gets a little bit more and more green every time I reload. So I'm picking up a little bit more of the background darks that are still wet on the canvas. And I'm trying to wipe the brush as much as possible before reloading, so that I maintain some of those nice highlight greens that are gonna come up. I'm just forming my hill now and leaving the darks in there as well. Just working around. I'm basically holding the fan brush almost flat to the canvas, and I'm just cleaning it, just kind of softening some of the highlights that are a little bit more intense. Back into my mixture that is the yellow. It's becoming green more and more as I go back and forth. And just forming a new hill here with the fan brush basically flat to the canvas. As you can see, I'm constantly wiping my brush off before reloading it. I think that's very important to maintain the intensity of the yellow, and then it'll be easier for me to bring in a little bit more highlight if I need to. and just making subtle highlights and not having to kind of just slap the color on there. There's a nice gradation between the darks to lights here. I'm just cleaning a spot for myself here. Or trying to get all the color off the palette. Try to reuse it. As you can see, there's quite a bit of housekeeping when painting. So sometimes we have this idea as beginners that we just have to show up in front of the canvas and just kind of paint. But the housekeeping is as important as painting itself. So being organized, knowing where your brushes are, knowing where your shop towels are, of course where your paints are, and all that stuff is very important, and keeping them in the same place so you can access them and reload your palette whenever you need to with new fresh paint. I think that's very important to developing a habit of and a process for painting. Right now I just came back into a little bit of the darks with the black and probably a little bit of the mixture of what I had before, and then just kind of reintroducing some of these darker darks in the painting as a whole. And you don't have to necessarily do this, but you can, to kind of go back and forth between the darks and the lights. And into that dark mixture again, I did wipe my brush to keep it as intense dark as possible. I'm just working on some background or foreground grasses here. With the fan brush, just picking up some of this color so that I can reload the brush more effectively. And just adding some of these tall grasses with the fan brush. I don't think this was part of the plan, but yeah, I ended up doing some grasses all the way to the foreground. Usually we would use the script liner brush for that, to bring in some nice tall weeds, nice tall dark colored and then light colored strokes from the liner brush. But in this case I'm kind of showing you what the fan brush is capable of as well. In a way it does create some kind of similar effect, but it's a different effect. You can't really get the thin lines with the fan brush as you can get with the script liner brush. Alright, got myself a little bit more yellow. For a little bit more highlights. And this painting is coming to an end very soon, so let's see what kind of highlights I'm going to put on here. So like I said, you can see right now the effects of managing how much color you have on there, how much paint you have on the canvas itself, and then you can start to achieve a little bit more of the really light highlights that don't kind of turn into mud. So I'm always kind of on the lookout for how much paint I'm applying. So this would be my last highlight layer, so a little bit more paint is okay. Creates a little bit more texture and gives me the effect that I'm looking for. As you can see me holding the brush different ways and using the bristles differently. Sometimes pushing upwards and sometimes pushing downwards, but always kind of using the edges of the fan brush. Just wiping the brush again and then going back to soften some of these highlights again. Back to reloading into the yellow. And start forming some of these grasses now. As you can see, I'm holding the brush a little bit more flatter to the palette to load it up. I am using a little bit more of the whole brush on the canvas as well. I'm trying to stay away from what I have right there on the canvas. I'll start breaking some of those patterns down. It's natural to have them. They just kind of happen. So look out for those patterns if you have um, patterns happening in the left hand corner on the foreground. You wanna try and break those up. And I don't think I saw that at the time, as right now the patterns I was talking about, so they might be left in there. Just going back and softening any harsh highlights or harsh darks with the corner of the brush, wiping it off constantly on the shop towel, and just stepping back and looking what I have here.